How much time do you invest in an average day on wondering about whether or not you did the right thing, made the right decisions about your kids, about your family, about your friends, about people in your life? Are you doing the right thing, or what should you do? Or in work, about are you making the right decision? And thinking about all the uncertainties out there and what would happen if all these things that were out of your control happened. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing some scenario planning and thinking about alternatives, but think about all of the mental and emotional real estate you put into that. What would happen if you could capture back even 10% of that? All of that energy, instead of it weighing you down and wearing you out, imagine that you could use that to live more fully and to move forward with what you could impact. What could be possible then? Hi, I'm Ravi Tangri, and this is SOULgineering, your life and your work. And it's about how do you find those tiny little pressure points where you can bring more heart, more soul, more all of yourself into all of your life, into your work, into your play, into everything that you do. And what I want to dive into today is seeing what would happen if you could divert some of the mental and emotional real estate that you invest every day into things that are out of your control. So these could be things at home about your kids or your parents or your friends, your family. Are you doing the right thing? What should you do? How could you have done something differently? What should you do in the future? All these things that run through your head. Or how are your kids going to do when they're out on their own, and so on, or your friends and things that are not in your control. And at work, when you're thinking about what do you do in terms of all the challenges that you have, the decisions you have to make, you've made decisions. Was it the right decision? Accounting has a great term for that. It's a sunk cost. The decision's done. You deal with moving forward, but yet we spend a lot of time often second guessing ourselves. Or in today's crazy world, all of the different things that could happen that could impact your business, the uncertainty about this and that. What do you do? Things that are not in your control at all. And the thing is, what would happen if you could recapture just a fraction of that? All of that energy, all of that mental and emotional real estate that you invest into things that are not in your control, what other people do, what's happening in the world, all the things that you're juggling. If you could take back that energy that's weighing you down, that is actually eating your strength, and find a way to apply that in a way that moves you forward, let you live more fully, let you move and live more fully. That's what I want to get into. And what pops to mind when I think about this is something that happened back in the 90s. I was in a city across the harbor from me in Dartmouth, and I was driving back to Halifax over the bridge for an interview with a reporter. And this was before the days of cell phones. And there was an accident on the bridge, so it was all backed up, and there was nothing I could do. I couldn't reach him. I couldn't inform him. And I had two options. One, which I had done many times in the past, was to get frustrated. Why aren't people moving? Why aren't we moving faster? All of these things, focusing on all the things that I'm missing, that I might miss my appointment, all of these scenarios that just create stress because there's nothing that was in my control. Or I could simply accept that it was not in my control and just be there and listen to the podcast, or at that point, it wasn't podcasts, it was probably books on tape that I was doing. And just appreciate this as some time that I had to learn, because there's absolutely nothing I could do that could change how fast I would get across the bridge in downtown. Here's the interesting thing. When I got to the cafe, I was meeting the reporter. I did make it. I wasn't too late. I shared this with him, and he was actually totally unable to grasp this. He could not understand that I just sort of went, oh, there's nothing I can do. He took it perhaps as a personal insult that he didn't matter to me, but he expected that I should be fretting and suffering and struggling over this. That's the expectation society has. Even if it's not in your control, you should be stressing and freaking out over it, because that's what's expected. He just could not grasp that you can let go of that and just breathe and be present. It did not compute for him. The thing is, if I had done all the fretting, it would not have changed the outcome in the slightest. All I would have done is poison myself with the 30 hormonal toxins and 1,300 chemical toxins that I would have pumped through my body. And I really believe that we get addicted to that. That's why we perpetuate those stressful moments, because we get hooked on those hormones and chemicals of stress. And it really is like breaking an addiction to let that go. But when something is totally and completely out of your control, we don't think we do. Just like that reporter, most people don't think they do. But you do actually have a choice of staying in the stress and frustration, or stepping out of it and taking a breath and just being present and saying, okay, I'm here. I have no control. What do I do? How do I make the most of this? And for some people, as I say, like the reporter, this can seem so foreign, so unbelievable, because we are conditioned that we need to stress over things. So, simple exercise to understand this, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you may have done this already, is take a look around you, everywhere around you, and imagine that you can see everything red. Pick out everything that's red. Imagine it's jumping out at you. Everything that's red around you. It could be clothing, it could be signs, it could be whatever that's red around you. Okay? Pick out everything that's red. Now, once you've got that, for a moment, don't do this if you're driving or operating equipment, but as long as you're not driving or operating equipment, close your eyes. Come on, play along with me. Close your eyes. And while your eyes are closed, name 3 things that are blue. How easy is that? For most people, it's not. Why? Because you were seeing red. That's what you were focused on. What this is about is the red things are the things that you cannot control. The blue things are the things that maybe you can control, or maybe you can at least influence. But if you build a habit of focusing on the red, you start to see less blue, and all you see is more stuff that's out of your control, that drives you into that stress, that helplessness, that sense of you can't do anything. And it will just grow. And what that does is it increases stress, it lowers resilience, and it's incredibly unhealthy for you because of the toxic chemicals that pump in your body, some for 6 hours or more. So what's your habit? Are you focused on the red, or are you focused on the blue? There's something in there that connects here to some other work by a gentleman by the name of Michael Singer. I spoke about this on an earlier podcast, but this is about a particular book he wrote called The Surrender Experiment. And I'm going to give you my corrupted Reader's Digest version of this. Is he basically in the 60s was just a hippie. He wanted to sit in the woods and get high and meditate, and that's all he wanted. He had some land, he had a minivan, I think, and he taught part-time philosophy at a local college to make money. And all he wanted to do was sit in the woods and meditate. Then he got some guidance that he was supposed to say yes to whatever the universe gave to him. He was supposed to surrender to whatever was offered to him. And he found it odd, but he decided to follow it. And his whole life, book is a story of his life in that. And after a while, he decided he didn't just want to live in his van. Thought he'd like a house. And his ego mind thought, I just want a simple house, one little house. He didn't know how to build it. He had a friend who did. And the friend came and said, oh, I've got these great ideas. And he designed this whole amazing house. And the singer said, I don't really want this house, but I'm supposed to say yes. So he went along with it and he helped the guy. And in the process, he learned how to build houses. Then people started asking him to do stuff for him, and he wound up saying yes and wound up growing a whole construction business that was building homes. Along the way, also doing this, saying yes, and on this land and other land he acquired, he started building a spiritual retreat center where they brought gurus from India and people came to meditate and so on. And that just kept growing by saying yes to things that people asked him or people offered him. When the first computers came out, he really was taken by programming, and he started playing around with programming, and companies started asking him to make software for him. And he said, yes, yes, yes. Okay, I'll do that. And he wound up building a multi-million-dollar software company that created software for professionals. And he never wanted to do this. He just wanted to sit in the woods and meditate. That's all he thought he wanted. But in the process of this whole journey of growing all these businesses, of helping people grow, of growing this spiritual retreat center, he actually found more of what he wanted than if he had just sat in the woods and meditated. More of the serenity, more of the connection, more of all of the things he really was looking for, just by saying yes to the universe. Now, let me be clear. I am not advocating that you do this. I'm not advocating that you suddenly give up everything and just surrender and say yes to whatever happens. You should not follow my guidance, anyone else's guidance, unless you have determined that it's the right thing for you. But my thought is, in those moments where you are in stress over things that you cannot control, what are you doing that is productive in that time and actually making a difference? Or are you just going through something that society has conditioned you to do? Are you just stressing because that's what is expected of you, like with that reporter? Okay. If there are things in business, all these uncertainties, absolutely, you do some scenario planning, you do some analysis, and you prepare for potentials. But do you just stay stuck in the stress of going, what do I do? How do I deal with this? If your child is grown up and is going through difficult things, you be there for support, but you are not living their life. They are, and you can be there to support them if something happens. But in the end, they are living their life, and they don't want you probably to take over their life. So you need to say, is what I am doing productive energy with friends? And often we see friends that are going through major caca, and we can see what they're not seeing, their blind spots. And we want to sometimes show them, sometimes shake them to see. But if they're not ready to see it, if they are choosing to go down a path that's not a healthy path, there's absolutely nothing you can do. I mean, yes, if someone is really getting self-destructive, there are ways to do interventions and such. But if they are bound and determined to go down a route that is not healthy, that is their choice. You can feel sad for them, but How, are you spending all your time wondering what you could have done, how you could have done it? Those are all sunk costs. I know this may sound cruel to say this or uncaring, but is it caring? Is it doing, the question to ask is it doing one iota of good to worry? I've not found a single thing that worry does. You act or you let it go. The just worrying does not do anything productive except release those chemicals in your brain. And also part of that stress response is it shuts down your brain, so you're not as effective dealing with what you can control. How can you start to focus on the blue? So here's a challenge. How do you release all of the red that's out there, the things that are not in your control? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. One is an indigenous ceremony I found very powerful, is called the burning bowl, where what you do is you write down all of the things that are frustrating you, all the things that are worrying you, all the things that you keep running through your head nonstop. It's not to wallow in it, it's to get it out on the paper, and you want to feel almost all that energy going out into the paper on the ink. And I do this with paper and ink, not on the computer, because I believe there's something in that visceral part of that. And then when you're complete, you rip that up and you get a fire safe bowl. I've got a bowl that I use for burning bowls whenever I do it. Go to a safe place where you can put the piece of paper in the bowl and burn it. And as it burns, you just feel all that energy going up in flames. And then what I do sometimes is I will go and bury the ashes or release them into the ocean. It's just a way of letting it go. It's amazing how powerful that is. Another big thing you can do is to shut off your monkey mind, your head chatter, because that's a thing that often goes into a loop. And again, I found very little productive that your head chatter, that your monkey mind actually does. It is the biggest destroyer of resilience. It's a thing that keeps us from sleeping all night, and sleep is the biggest builder of resilience. It makes us second guess decisions we've made and be not sure about what's coming. And so the more you can shut that down, the easier. And at the end, I'm going to share with you a free resource that I have about that. You may also want to get some counseling. You may want to get someone to work with more holistic practices or energy work or other types of healing to help you release that addiction to the red. And I'm not talking about getting rid of it all and doing like Singer did and jumping into complete surrender. I'm saying, how could you even get 10% of it? If you can do 10% less of that energy that's all eating you and shift it into more nurturing energy, it's amazing the difference that could make. So that's a first step. How do you release the red? The second thing then is, how can you tune in to your intuition? So the first step, you can't hear your intuition if your monkey mind is going. The intuition is the quiet voice within. So you've got to shut off the monkey mind. And I'll give you the resource for that, the free resource for that. Other things that can help you access your inner knowing, your intuitive guidance about what's the right thing to do, to meditate, whatever form of meditation works for you. And mindfulness can come in many forms. Runners talk about having a runner's high. As a dancer, dance is mindfulness practice. Even a ridiculously fast salsa is a mindfulness practice for me, because I have to be so present with my partner and the music, because I'm choreographing in that instant. Being in nature, so amazingly healing to quiet the mind. And I especially love being by water, especially the ocean. So the time that you can spend in the ocean. For some people who, don't meditate or don't follow spiritual practice, there's still other ways that do it. One of the best leaders I know had a very busy life. They had a full family life. They were busy and effective at work. They were marathon runner. They said they didn't have time for all that other stuff. But what he did was in the morning, he would go running at 6 a.m., but he would get up at 5:30 and he'd make a coffee and he'd sit down. And that was time when his kids weren't up and such. And he would just sit at the kitchen table. Really, it was a meditative time and contemplative time. But that was his practice. The thing is finding out what it is for you that will quiet your mind. And what that's going to do is start to shift those chemicals that I talked about. So that's a whole journey itself. I've done another podcast on that, and I'll put the link in the notes about the intuition, how you can learn to trust your intuition. Once again, I do not advocate you trusting your intuition blindly. I present in that other podcast a way that you can test it, and then you can make a choice. You have to always make the choice for you. You don't do it because anybody says you should. You know what's right for you. So those are, to me, the two steps. One is to start to step out of and to release the red zone. Then it's to focus on what you can do, the blue elements, and tune into your intuition to help you with what can you do now. It's like when I was sitting on that bridge, it's like, okay, there's nothing I can do. What do I do with this time? Okay, let's turn on that book I was listening to and turn it into learning time. I didn't think and analyze my way. I just sort of sat, okay, what do I do? And it popped. My intuition gave me that, do that. That's the way to make productive use of this time. And then when I get to the interview, I'm much more present. I'm much more effective. So those are a couple of things. And remember, this is a journey. You've spent your whole life perhaps building a habit of focusing on the red. Our whole society expects us to be freaked out over the stuff that we can't control. And certainly right now with all the caca going on in the world, there's a lot that's out of our control. You can either be stressed and feel helpless in that, or you can come back to yourself and be as resourceful as you can so that you can deal with what's in your world. And if those other things affect you, you can take the wise action, not just action, moving forward. Now, I promised you a resource for shutting off your monkey mind. There's a free e-course that I have that if you just give me 1 week, and I'm just talking about 10 minutes a day, and not 10 minutes at a time. It's a minute here, a minute there, and then 5 to 10 minutes in another spot each day. You will learn how to shut off your monkey mind whenever you want. So if you're having trouble getting sleep or you wake up in the middle of the night because your head's just going, you just apply this process, shuts it right down. You can sleep deeply. Find yourself beating yourself up about things that are out of your control. You can shut that off, breathe, and be present. If you meditate or if you're at the beach or doing whatever, this will allow you to go even deeper. You just apply this technique and you will go deeper into presence. And the more you can do that, the more powerful, the more effective you're going to be. And here's the weird thing that happens. There's less caca that pops up in your life. To get the free e-course, just go to silenceselftalk.com. Please share with me how this works out. Drop me a note, write in the comments below the podcast. Would love to hear how you apply this. What are the results you found? Because anytime I've worked with someone to do this, the magic is amazing in terms of how much of a shift simple little things can make. I'm Ravi Tangri, and this is SOULgineering your life and work.
I've got the energy, it's all I need.